Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Eileen, and this is Medicine Walk. And for those of you who are joining me on Blog Talk Radio, this is Healing House Radio. So I hope that everyone has had a wonderful week. I hope that everyone is all, getting all geared up for a very gentle and restful holiday season. Wherever you are in the world and whatever you celebrate, I hope the next couple of weeks as we come to the end of the year, at the end of 2018, are going to be peaceful and just really wonderful for you. So, I posted on, well, actually I'm recording this on Tuesday, and playing it on Thursday, but on Tuesday, I posted on Twitter the idea that we really don't have to understand why someone is going through what they're going through in order to be able to support them through it. And I've had a lot of questions lately on how is it that we can best support someone going through a difficult time, because if 2018 has been nothing else, it has been challenging times for a lot of different people. And for those of you who have been going through stuff, I'm so sorry. And I wish you the absolute best. And so, there's been a lot of loss. And so, and that's been kind of a theme that we've been talking about. And I wanted to focus on what we can do to help others to be able to manage this time and to really be able to support them in the way that they need to be supported. And often it's really hard because, people may not know what to say, or they may not be able to feel that, they have what it takes emotionally to really be there and nurture someone. And I've had a lot of people who say that I have a tendency to be able to do that. And they ask me how. And really, it comes down to the idea, being empathic helps. And being able to kind of gauge where someone's at and meet them where they are. And just to be able to hold that space for them. It is not that difficult, but it does take practice. Because the main thing we need to practice is not trying to create a solution. Not trying to, start off the bat with all the questions. It's like, well, why do you feel this way? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Because there's a place in the process for that. There's a point when, those questions are really good and really helpful and really appropriate. And often at the very beginning, especially if someone is learning how to trust, if somebody is really in a space, or if they're not somebody who normally, lets their guard down, it can be really tough to get them to feel comfortable to be able to talk to you. And I find that the less one person talks, the more another person is willing to. It's almost like there's a need to fill the empty space. And if we can override the idea that, well, I have to say something. I have to either say something to comfort and just be and just sit there with that person. Often, not only will the person instinctively, sort of begin to speak to fill that space, but what they will do is they will feel that they're being listened to. If somebody is telling you something and you're thinking about your response, you're not really hearing what they're saying. And it's so important. One of the things that a lot of people talk about, and I do a lot of counseling, I do a lot of, sitting with people and kind of helping them find their own answers and just give them a sort of a space to do that. One of the things that they often say is that when somebody immediately starts trying to solve their problem, they shut down. And a lot of people do. For me, there is nothing that will shut me down quicker with somebody than when I'm, talking about something and they, look, what you need to do is, I know what's going on, so what you need to do is, and it's like, that's it, done. I don't have anything else to participate in that with that person, because I don't feel that they're listening to me. And we all need to be listened to. We all need to feel like what we have to say matters, that our situation is not so easy, and it can be complex, and it can be something that, it's there is no clear, yes or no answer. It's about a personal journey. And if you can take that personal journey with someone and be there for them and help them realize, okay, first off, you're not alone. And we can do this. And you can do this. And you're strong enough to be able to do this. You can figure this out. And by allowing people to find their own solutions, and it may not even be a solution you agree with, but it's their solution, it's their path, it's their way. And this is a process that not everybody has a really good, comfort with, because especially if it's someone we care about, when we see that they're having a problem, we want to help. We want to get them to feel better. We want to get them to stop crying. We want them to get them to stop being angry. We want them to stop feeling depressed. And that's wonderful. And that's what friends do. That's what people who love one another want to do. They want to see the other person happy. And sometimes the person needs to go through that in order to get out the other side, in order to really find their own answer. Because by hiding from the answer, by not allowing that person to find their own answer, that means that whatever solution that you're giving them belongs to you. It doesn't belong to them. And, maybe, the would-be advisor has been through something similar, and that's okay. Later on, when you get to like the different parts, for me, everything has to kind of go in order. And it's sort of like you don't put the middle of a book at the beginning, or the beginning of a book at the end. Everything kind of goes in order. And it's sort of like the stages of grief. You can't, they're in that order for a particular reason. And when somebody is dealing with something, really intense, if somebody is dealing something that's weighing on them, especially if it's someone who normally doesn't open up about what's going on with them, or someone who is usually the one to help out, and those of you who are rescuers, those of you, I guess sort of like me, because I'm very much like that. I spend a lot of time working with people and kind of helping them through things, and I spent so many years doing that I wasn't opening up, and I wasn't talking about the things that bothered me, because I was there for other people. And that was something that I really hadn't noticed myself sliding into. And when it reached a point where I needed to kind of unburden myself and talk, I found that I had a very, very, very difficult time doing it. And fortunately, I have dear friends and people who I can talk to who understand that and have been working with me, because I actually have asked for help with that. And the idea that if you're dealing with somebody who isn't the person who is the one who is counseled, and who more often is the counselor, and if that's you, you know who you are. So the idea is that you have to kind of start at the beginning of a process. Now, if this is a process you don't have time for, and you can't, be able to make space for, it's best that you not start, because you kind of have to, hang in with them through the process. So if it just starts off with, having that person being able to be around that person, because a lot of times people will get up and walk away if they're going through stuff. I know for me, I wanted to be by myself. And I knew that was the last thing that I would ever recommend to anybody, was to be by themselves when, they're going through something. But, I would do it. So I had to learn how not to just immediately walk away, to internalize, to find my solution by myself. Because it was hard being around people who wanted so desperately to be helpful, and yet they weren't always as helpful as they wanted to be. It wasn't always about telling me, it's like, well, I went through this, and then as they're talking about what they went through, the whole thing switches, and I end up counseling them. So, which is something that, okay, I would almost do intentionally, because then it's like, all right, we're talking about you, we're not talking about me, I get to be alone. So the idea of somebody who is accustomed to kind of, being the one to be the listener, often they don't look for people to listen to them. So the first part is listening. The first part is allowing that person to just be who and what they need to be in that moment. Don't try to get them to immediately cheer up or start analyzing or picking it apart, because at that point it's just about acknowledging that they feel that way. They may not even know at that point why they feel that way, or maybe what they think it is isn't exactly what it is. It's like there's something on a deeper level that they're not recognizing yet as the actual problem. They're just dealing with what triggered them. So as you look at what it is that that person needs, often at first they just need a space to say that something's wrong. They need to be able to sit quietly and accept that something is really wrong and they can't deal with it, because that can be really hard when you have to admit that there's something you can't deal with, and it can be very tough. So having somebody to just be able to do that, maybe you're just sitting next to them and not saying anything, or maybe it's like, you go and get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and you put it down in front of them, and you just sit, or a glass of water, and you just sit and you wait and you wait and you wait. And then as the person starts speaking, don't talk yet. Keep waiting. Because, that little bit of one word, two words, whatever, it sort of, if the person starts to feel really safe, or if they're that tired, or if they really need comfort at that point, what they're doing is they're breaking down their own resistance to you. Their resistance to being viewed as weak, or being viewed as not having it together. That first part of silence is that inside battle for them to tear down that wall inside of them that says, no, I have to appear, large and in charge and totally calm all the time. So as that wall gets taken down within themselves, you almost see them just sort of slump, or maybe you see like a tear coming down their face. Keep waiting and allow them to come into that space, and if you're lucky and if they feel safe, they'll start to talk. Keep waiting. Don't engage yet, or if you do, it's like, wow, that just sounds horrible, or I'm so sorry. But don't go any further than that. Just keep waiting and let all of that stuff that's simmering down underneath, because it will bubble up and it will bubble out. And sometimes you have to wait for a while, and it's hard not to try to rush the process, but you can't. When someone feels that you are willing to wait for them, that you are willing to listen to them, often once it starts up, well, then it gets going. And at that point, that's still in that beginning part. It's like you're holding a bowl for them to dump all that stuff into. And maybe they're venting, and maybe they're ranting, or maybe they're just crying. Maybe they just need to have a good cry. And you get them some tissues, but you just keep waiting. And then when it reaches that point where they're expressing themselves, or they're talking about something, let them get through their whole thing. Let them empty out. And then, the idea of, it's like, wow, so, do you know what you want to do? Because if you just ask somebody, what do you want to do, they may not know. So if you ask them, do you know what you want to do? Then, yeah, they'd say either yes or no. Because yes or no questions are really easy. And you can ask, is there anything I can do to help? Which they'll probably, in most cases, people say no. And don't be upset, because there may be something you can do, but they just can't think of it right then. So, keep giving space. Keep thinking that the less you say, the more they will say, and the more they will able to find their own solution. So just wait for it. Hold that space. Let them come to you. And allow them, because sometimes, as a person is talking, they'll end up really getting to the point of what actually is going on. Or maybe they'll go, whoa, I just remembered something. And that's like a really, really powerful thing, because then that shows that they're putting the pieces together. Oh yeah, that used to bother me a long time ago, and these were the things that were happening to me when that happened. And just keep listening. And at the point where they're kind of emptied out and, they've talked all the stuff that they want to talk about, and it seems that, they need a little bit of a break in it, then, just kind of let a break happen. Maybe ask them if they'd like some more water, or ask them if they'd like some tea or some coffee, or or whatever, because what that does, it kind of breaks it just enough to where they can refocus their mind and then kind of get back into it. And then they'll start, they may start associating with some other things. So being there for somebody, and you may or may not ever actually get to what it was that was the problem. But the thing is, at least it opens up that person to the solution. You don't have to find a solution right then. You don't have to fix the problem. And you're probably not going to fix the problem right then and there. It may be something that is complex, and it may be something that may require like professional therapy. Or maybe it's just that that person was sitting on something inside of themselves and just having a chance to say, this is upsetting to me, or this was hard, or, God, I'm frustrated. And sometimes that's just enough to let the person be able to find their equilibrium again, to be able to take a look at where they're at and go, wow, I didn't realize that that was bothering me as much as it was. And, you just keep sitting there and saying, well, I'm glad I could be here for you. And, how else, is there anything else that I can do? And, because a lot of times if we're just being listened to, if somebody's not trying to fix us, not trying to, because when you go in and you start, it's with the best of intentions to go in and start and, and try to give solutions and give ideas. Or often like people who are intuitive will suddenly, it's like, well, here's what, what I feel about it. At that point, it's not important what you feel about it. At that point, if you try to take it over by creating a solution, what you're doing is you're taking away a part of their process. So hold off on whatever it is that, whatever message you're getting that this person needs to hear. They don't need to hear it right then. What they can do is be allowed to find their own solution. It's not your solution. It's not your guide's solution. It's, it's their solution. That's the one they need to live with. That's the one they're going to learn from. So allow them to be able to find their solution. Not when you... So, had a little issue with the camera, but we've got it reset. So anyway, so allow them to find their own solutions. Allow them to find their own way of dealing with this and being able to find their path, because it may not be what you want for them, but it might be what's best for them and for their journey. So make sure that you allow time and space for them to find their way, and for you to not be able to, or for you not to feel like you have to become attached to their outcome, because that's one of the biggest things, is attachment to somebody else's outcome. So just listen, just be there, just be a friend, be a lover, be a family member, be a support, and be a place for them to find their own answers, because everybody has the chance, should have the chance to find their own answers. And often it's a lot easier to let somebody find their own answers than to give them an answer, and then if it doesn't work out, then it's on you. So just be there, just listen, and keep listening, because often the person who says the least is asked for their advice the most. And when you allow someone else to find their own way, then you're adding to their ability to trust themselves. You're adding to their ability to be able to say, hey, maybe I can figure things out on my own. So give it a try. And it does take practice. It can be tremendously difficult to say nothing. But just allow your body language and your spirit and your eyes to say, hey, I am listening to you. I am totally focused on what you're saying, and just keep saying it. And you get to experience this. So, give it a shot, practice it a bit, and you might find that, especially if you're someone who has a hard time talking to people, maybe encourage them to just listen and just be there for you. And it's amazing how much we can each grow when we're allowed to find our own way. So, thank you for joining me. And if you enjoyed this video, if this worked well for you, if this helped in any way, please like the video. You can share the video. You can comment on the video, which I always read the comments. And you can also subscribe to the channel, because it's always cool to see the channel grow. And for those of you who are on Blog Talk Radio, you can go to the link that's in the description on Blog Talk Radio, and you can actually watch this episode. So you can sort of see what happened during that little gap that we had. Anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday. I hope that your lives are gentle. I hope you're being listened to. And I hope you're having the opportunity to listen. And as always, I wish you balance, and I wish you blessings. From my heart to yours. Love you. Bye.